Welcome to Flip Lesson 86 for the 6th grade. Today we're looking at area of a circle. And we're going to get into a new formula that we want to learn and memorize and keep into our memory banks as we do our math. Let's go ahead and get started with this. We look at this, and the first thing we're asked as we look at this circle on this graph paper, it says how many units is the radius of the circle. The radius is going to be an important part of finding area. Now, to find the radius, there's two different things, right? We find the center of the circle, right, which I've kind of labeled already with this green square there, and I could just count my units, 1, 2, and that's going to give me a radius, right? So radius in this case equals 2 units. Now, if the square wasn't there, let's see if I can actually grab it and move it. Not going to move for me. Doesn't matter. If that radius wasn't there, we could also think about the fact that, and even if the graph paper wasn't there, we could think about this green line, this new green line, as our diameter, right? And we know that diameter equals 2 radius, or a radius plus a radius, right? So even if we knew that measurement, we could find that. So if you were given the fact that the diameter is 4, then you could take, okay, diameter equals radius plus radius, so diameter divided by 2 is going to give us this 2. So that's just an example of how you might have to find the radius. Now, with that stuff in mind, what we're going to do now is we're just going to use our eyes to estimate the area of the circle. And to estimate the area of the circle, what we want to do is basically we want to kind of color in the squares that are for the most part whole, right? So I'm going to say, okay, this one is definitely whole, that one is definitely, we got the whole square there, got the whole square here, got the whole square here, that looks good. This one, close enough, it won't that little corner, so I'm going to count that one, right? Same with this one, and this one, and this one. And you're starting to get the picture of what I'm doing here, right? And so for sure I can say, okay, I for sure have these 8 boxes. That's not 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 boxes. That makes more sense. But what about this little part right here, right? Well, that's about half. So plus that one, plus that one, plus that one. So that's 4 halves. So half plus half, that's another one, plus half, that's another one. And so in the end, we could estimate the area of this to be about 14 units. And of course, it's area, so we're going to square it. Right? And you can see how I did that. However, of course, that's not really accurate enough to get a true number. So we need a formula. Okay, and our formula for area of a circle, we're going to bring back in that number pi, and we're going to use that number to help us understand how to solve this. Okay, and once again it becomes about the radius. Pi times the radius squared. So we're going to take the radius and square it and then multiply by pi. Why are we able to do this? We look at our next question. How many units is the radius of the circle? Once again, I've drawn a square for you to help you see where this radius is coming from. And you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a radius, which means this is also 4. And what we have here is a 4 by 4 box. And really, we could take this box, maybe it's grouped, maybe that's why. Take this box, and I can move the box, I can put the box here, and here, and here. And if I had just those boxes, that would make a lot of sense, right? The problem is we have this nice blue curved line, just like that, and this area all gets cut off on all of our squares. And that's where the number pi comes in. Pi is going to cut the corners for us and give us the circle that we need. All right, so we understand the concept of how we're really figuring out the area, and we understand how pi is going to cut the corners. All right, so if we're going to cut these corners off, Let's erase all this stuff so we can see the original picture again. And we go back to the first question, how many units is the radius? We determined that our radius is 4, right? So our radius is 4 units, right? If it doesn't give you a label, you just say units. Now, we're going to calculate the area of the circle. And of course, in this case, it says round to the nearest whole number. So sometimes it's going to say that, round to the nearest whole number, but that doesn't mean every time. If it doesn't tell you to round, then you don't round, and you might have a longer decimal in your answer. So let's figure this out. Since our radius is 4, what our problem is really saying is that we're going to take pi, right, which we know as 3.14, and we're going to multiply by a radius and then another radius. So a radius would be 4, and then another radius would be 4 again, right? So that would be 4 times 4. That's the same as radius squared. So we have that idea. So let's give you some room so we can actually see what we're doing. All right, so 4 times 4 is 16. So we're going to do 314 times 16. So 6 times 4, carry the 2, 8 goes down, 8 goes down, 1 goes down. And then add a 0, and it's going to be 4, 1, 3. And now I can add these numbers together, and I get 4, 2, carry the 1, 1 plus 8 is 9 plus 1 is another 0 goes down, 1 goes up, 1 plus 1 plus 3 is a 5. All right. Now that we've done that, we need to go back and count our decimal places. We have 1, 2 decimal places. 1, 2 puts us right there. And so our decimal answer is 50.24. However, as we go back up to the question, if the computer lets me go back up to the question. Come on, computer, you can do it. All right, it says round to the nearest whole number. All right, so if our number was 50.24, right, we're rounding to the nearest whole number, so this is our nearest whole number, so we're going to look back 1, that's a 2, that says round down, or keep it as 50, and so our answer is going to be 50 square, and we're working on this grid. We don't have centimeters, inches, nothing like that is labeled, so we can just say 50 square units. All right, then, with those things in mind, use this formula and this information to help you find out the area of the circle in the problem. That is lesson 86, all about finding area.